Namaste, viewers, and welcome to another episode of Amazing Vedas with Dr. Pariksith Singh. Thank you, Dr. Singh, for joining us. Viewers, we have discussed this topic earlier, and to me, it's a very fascinating topic, which is what happened to all the great Vedic deities? Why don't we worship them anymore? And Dr. Singh has a theory, and we want to listen to what he says in one of his latest tweets on the platform called X. I'm going to invite him to read it out. So go ahead, Dr. Singh, if you can please share that tweet with us.
Yes. Vedic Dhyana, Indra. Why did Indra diminish in importance in post-Vedic India? It is one of the mysteries of the evolution of the Indic civilization. I offer my hypothesis here. Indra's decline in importance in post-Vedic India may partly reflect a shift in the Indic approach to spirituality. We moved away from a spirituality concerned with illumination and enlargement of the mind towards traditions that emphasized transcendence of the mind. Sri Aurobindo did not accept mind as an enemy nor as a destination. According to him, the mind has to be transformed and used as an instrument. Indra may have fallen because he succeeded. Vedic India said, break the enclosure of ordinary consciousness. Later spirituality tried to break the enclosure of Indra himself and bypass him at times. This is only a theory. Feel free to disagree.
No, I think, frankly, I have really found what you said profound and illuminating in a manner that actually I haven't found this in any other source so far. Of course, that last paragraph is something that, we can discuss or debate a little bit. But why do I say I found what you call your theory most illuminating? See, that's because I feel that in a very interesting and complicated way, the mind itself got degraded, in the post Vedic period. So it was not a failure of Indra as such, but it was the failure of our own intellectual capacities. What do I mean by that? I think that in the Vedic period, which was a very interesting time because, first of all, we don't know when it was. We can't map it on any archaeological or other historical, age. I was having a conversation about this with someone else, a very eminent scholar. And you can't, as it were, reduce the Vedic age either to a Stone Age or a Bronze Age or an Iron Age, because I think the ideas from the Vedas or the great insights of the Vedas are paradigmatic. We said that so many times. And that's why the Vedic deities, even if they seem to be supplanted or substituted, recur in different forms. But I found your theory most fascinating because, we have seen that Indra is the power of the illumined mind trying to strive, within us, trying to strive to reach those levels of higher consciousness. But where I want to simply add a coda to your theory and then we can take it forward is when the human mind was no longer interested in spiritual illumination, in finding out the ultimate truth, but became preoccupied with war, conquest, power, money, control. It was actually, in a sense, the repurposing of the intellect itself.
We see with Indra
From its ultimate capacities and purposes, then the deity that was associated with that higher mind, also in a way got degraded. And that's why after Buddhism, And in the Puranic times, Indra actually becomes a usurper of sorts, you know, who captures the throne, of heaven through deceit or through other means. And he becomes like any other earthly dictator who is so insecure, or who is always afraid that an upstart will come and challenge him. So that's why I thought your take on this whole Indra issue was so fascinating. I have a few other comments on this in a moment. I want to share them with you, but you tell me what you think about my modification, slight
Yes,
inflection,
yes,
what
yeah.
you
No,
said.
yeah. So there is open. There's of course so much to be said on it, but it was a teaser in the tweet, and a lot of things changed if we look at the Vedic literature and then even compare it with just as the Upanishads tend to the later Upanishads, we see a shift. And Sri Aurobindo has pointed it out, we move from an intuitive grasp of things to a more intellectualized approach. That's one thing we know. We can see that. And definitely after Sri Krishna, we see, after the Bhagavad Gita, we see a more intellectualized approach. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna is focused more on a very practical application. So he has kind of restricted himself, and that's totally okay. We do see a tremendous vision and the ability to bring together all the diverse darshanas and a very flexible, subtle intellect. There's a lot of use of mind, we may say a lot of use of Indra in the Bhagavad Gita. So Sri Krishna doesn't reject him, he uses that tremendous power. But you see, intellect is there even in later, uh, our later darshanas, but it's used for argumentation, subtle reasoning, subtle thinking, positing theories, looking at various aspects, more the function of an intellect. Indra is a very a level that seems to be just beyond intellect, where things are obvious, things are clear. He's a creator. He's not just an analyst. He's not just a critic. He's not just a someone who's a dissector. He's an integrator. He's able to have 1,000 wills at the same time, or rather, was it 100? Shata Krato. He is a Surupa Kritnum. He is a creator of beautiful forms. He is a Goda Idre Vato Madaha. He gives intelligence. He gives, the rays are full of light. He gives that light. So I think a couple of things we can surmise. One thing we can surmise is the approach to life changed. A symbolic, mystical way of looking at the universe began to give way to a language that was more linear, um, a multi-dimensional approach that the Veda has. The multi-dimensional approach, the symbolic approach, where one symbol can have multiple meanings. You can live in the 7 lokas and the 3 vyahritis at the same time, and they follow the rules of the loka that you're in. That seems to have given way to a focus more on this loka, and the intuitive, symbolic, mystical way of seeing the world began to give way to a more intellectualized, linear way of seeing the world. Now, the very shift in attitude towards life, towards spirituality, means that Indra, who is a multi-dimensional intelligence, has already become focused into one layer. The second thing, and this is again a theory, so please feel free to critique, feel free to disagree. Later literature, later thought, I believe, got influenced by um, perhaps other panths or other religions. There was a reverse influence. So we know that the Veda seems to have influenced or had been in touch with the ancient Orphic Eleusinian thought or approach, then the Egyptians, the Chaldeans, the Magi of Persia. But as you see a shift in, say, Judaism comes, which is more uh, one dimensional, where God is someone transcendent, God gives you rules. Suddenly, Indra begins to acquire the characteristics of that God. Suddenly, he punishes you, he fights you, he even tries to seduce uh, the rishikas. And then we also see the ancient understanding that Indra had to be a part of your spiritual development. We seem, which, if you remember the episode with Agastya Muni, where Agastya Muni is not allowed to go any higher by Indra, and he complains to Indra, and Indra says, no, you go higher, but I come with you, I'm your partner, I'm your brother. And Ashwins, the Maruts, everyone will help, but we go together, and they do the yajna together. This seems to have separated in the Purana literature also, you see, which is really where Indra begins to acquire a different um, personality. He's not Indra anymore. The Indra of the Veda is gone, or has been frozen in time. And Sri Aurobindo talks about that very briefly. But a new kind of uh, uh, what you call it, pantheon appears, and now Vishnu and Shiva, who are there in the Veda, but they acquire a greater dimension. In fact, in Vishnu is called Upendra because he comes after Indra. So Indra is more important because Indra is more easily available to us. Agni is more important because Agni is directly available to us. But now I think what happened, at least what I feel, is we start dealing directly, going beyond Indra. So it's a complex thing, but I think a lot of shifts happened. Definitely Vedic thought is quite alien to us. Vedic literature is quite alien to us. You can see even in the translations how linear those translations are. Our language has changed. We don't use symbolic language. We are very precise. This is a pen. In Sanskrit, we would go by the quality of what it would do, right? So, very different approach to language. So, I think it's a shift. The mind itself changed. And in that shifting of the mind, somewhere Indra himself got changed, or kind of moved aside, and we developed a new way of approaching life. At least those are my immediate thoughts, and I'm very open to your feedback on it.
No, I think this is very well put. In fact, we will carry this forward in our next episode. But just to conclude this part of our discussion, I tend to agree with you that that period of human, whatever you may call it, history, creativity, spirituality, or even religion, because this was pre religious, it was pre belief, it was
Yes.
pre dogma, was a wonderful time for humanity, for the Homo sapiens species. Why do I say that? Because everything was alive. The waters were alive, the air was alive, Vayu, you know, the skies were alive, the stars were alive, the sun was alive, the moon was alive. And all of these potencies of nature were also within us, as Sri Aurobindo rightly points out. And to go back to the Vedas, to connect with the Vedas again, as we've been trying to do, is a way to re-enter that world of wonder and enchantment and possibilities, where we can reconnect with our own, I would say, primeval energies and capacities, and once again begin, to re-enchant our world, because modernity has been defined as the disenchantment of the world, where reason and science and a somewhat mechanistic, materialistic, scientific dogma, takes over, and human beings, therefore, become alienated in this cosmos, rather than being perfectly at home in it. And I think going back to the Vedas, at least for me, it has reintroduced, even if it's not a continuous sense of awe and wonder, but every now and then, like today, I was going for a walk and I was listening to something, and I was so absorbed in, listening to whatever that was playing. And suddenly I looked up and I saw an orange sky, and then a cloud moved across and everything became alive all
Yes.
of a sudden. So that sense that we are all interconnected, and nature and human, whatever creation which we call culture, are one continuum, and that flash of tadekam.
Yes.
So for me, regardless of what people say, I do not really encourage turning Sri Aurobindo and the mother themselves into dogma or into some holy grantha, holy book, scripture. But I think the living Veda is what we want to connect with, and the living Veda, in fact, in my view, imbues the entire world, including inanimate things, with a sense of, I would say, conscious energy. The whole world becomes an energy field. And if you are able to transport yourself or flip your awareness into that situation, then I would think that Indra becomes such an important deity. He becomes a friend, he becomes an enabler, he becomes, in a way, your own capacities inherent in every Indriya, every sense, through which you perceive the world. So imagine unlocking the wonder of the deity in each sense. And that sense perception together, the five senses together, are ordered by the intellect, the mind, to take you to the ultimate reality. So I don't think that you can have a better, more uplifting escalator, which is what the Veda is to higher consciousness. So if you have any concluding thoughts, please go ahead. Otherwise, we go to the next episode where we continue with this conversation.
No, absolutely. I think the Indra of the Veda is someone we probably should try to understand and recover. Because in the recovery of that Indra, we will discover a lot about ourselves and our own mind and our own possibilities.
Very well put. Let us recover the illumined mind, which was once our birthright. And today, unfortunately, we've lost touch with it. And therefore, we've got a very divisive mentality, which works always in dualities. And in the end, it makes us deeply unhappy. And the illumined mind will take us towards that unity and harmony. Because as Sri Aurobindo said, most of our problems are really problems of harmony. And he said that so beautifully in The Life Divine. With those words, thank you, Dr. Singh. Thank you, viewers, for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Do send us your questions and queries, and join us, as I said, in this voyage to recover our own deepest selves. And the Vedas are the royal road to that. With those words, thank you, viewers. See you soon. Namaste.